Baba is talking about being a complete beggar. And what does Baba mean by being a complete beggar? So Baba says, I shouldn't have any attachment, any attraction towards anything of this world, not even towards this body. In Hindi, Baba usually explains, beggar means beghar. So the one who doesn't even have attachment to this body, this ghar in which the soul is residing right now. And Baba says that if you forget everything of the old world, then you will get everything in the new world. And Baba says, when you forget, when you withdraw your intellect from everything of the old world, the body, the relationships, the attainments, the achievements, everything, when you withdraw your attention from, your intellect's yoga from, and you remember just Baba, your sweet home and your new world, then you will become eligible for getting everything in the new world. So this is what Baba is saying today. And today I was just thinking, that this intellect's yoga. So when you have this intellect of the yoga with something, then they start having an influence on you. Yes, and today in the course there was this brother, and he's a young brother, a college going student, and he was asking me that I am very sensitive by nature and I have a lot of empathy for everyone in the world. But what happens is even when I read a news, when I read about something that happened in the world, it starts affecting me. And he told me that I read a news some time back about a student, a very bright student, who had committed suicide. And even when he was talking about it, tears were welling up in his eyes. So he was kind of, feeling very emotional about it. And he said that whenever I think of that student, I feel like crying. I feel very bad for that person who committed suicide because of the environmental pressure and whatever was happening around him. So I told him that, you see, I understand that you're full of sympathy for somebody. But what is it that sympathy teaches you? Sympathy teaches you to help the one you have sympathy for, right? And for helping someone, you have to be in a position to help. And what is that position? So let's take this very example. So somebody committed suicide. So who is that somebody? That is a soul. And a soul who was in pain. A soul who was experiencing lack of power. And that is why when they committed suicide, just think about their last stage. So they are not in very good spiritual strength. Now, even when a soul has committed suicide and left the body, even then that soul is on an onward journey. And now that soul has that same sanskar, that same stage, that stage of sorrow and pain and discomfort and powerlessness and not having the ability to discern and decide. And now that soul is on its way to, to proceed on this journey of life. And in order to have a good journey, what does that soul need? Exactly what it doesn't have. So what is my duty as a brother soul full of sympathy? So my duty is to send those vibrations of peace and power and happiness and comfort and solace to that soul. But how will I give that? Only when I have that. And how will I have that? So the first thing is, I have to withdraw my intellect's yoga from the sorrowful and connect it to the ocean of peace and happiness. And then when I draw in peace and happiness from Baba, then I can radiate it to that soul. Yes. And this is what Baba is precisely explaining today. That you have to remove your intellect's yoga from everyone and everything in this old world. Because what is the name of this old world? This is a world of sorrow. This is a world of sorrow. And you know that in Hindi we say, we have dard ka rishta with each other. So the only relationship that morality is teaching us is to be sorrowful in another person's sorrow. Because it is a world of sorrow. So everybody is full of sorrow. Everything is full of sorrow. If not present sorrow, then anticipated sorrow. So, sometimes, something is not in a state of sorrow right now, but then you are full of fear that this might change. So even that is a cause of sorrow. And this is a world of sorrow. So Baba says, until and unless you completely withdraw your buddhi, you have absolute detachment from this whole old world, from the body, everything and every one of this world. And when you do that, when you are completely detached, and when you sit in remembrance of Baba, your sweet home, and the sweet kingdom that's going to come, only then can you be filled with the power and the goodness and the virtues and the knowledge with which you can serve. So, to help, you have to have the ability to help. And you will be serviceable. You will be in a capacity to serve the world if you withdraw your intellect from the old world and connect it to the ocean of peace and purity and to your home and to the new world. And when I am serviceable, then I will serve. And when you are serviceable, you are serving even unconsciously. Just like, even in our unconscious state, what is the soul radiating? It is radiating what it is. So, the soul is, if I am peaceless, then even when I am unaware, my vibrations will be that of peacelessness. So when I take this step of withdrawing from the old world and having yoga with Baba, then I am serviceable, and with every thought, with my being, with my vibrations, with my drishti, And then with my words and my actions, I will serve. And when I serve, then I will get the return of this seva in Satyug. So Baba says, those who will serve on Srimat. So serving on Srimat is not serving the bodies, but serving the souls. And giving the world the vibrations of knowledge, purity, peace, love, joy. So Baba says, when you become eligible to serve, when you are serviceable and you serve, then in return, you will get the kingdom of heaven. So Baba says, if you become a complete beggar, if you don't have anything now, then you will have everything. And if you are attached to whatever pennies you have today, then you cannot draw the light and might from Baba. And you cannot serve. And if you cannot serve, how will you get the return in Satyug? So this is one simple, science that Baba is teaching us today. And I always think that the most misunderstood word in the world is detachment. So people think that maybe detachment is dissociation, or maybe detachment is indifference. So when you are detached, you will grow indifferent, or you will be just, you will dissociate yourself with everybody. But when you grow indifferent or you dissociate with everybody, then that is not detachment, that is selfishness. But if you are not selfish, if you are an elevated soul and you are detached, then in that detached state, you draw in power from Baba, light and might from Baba, and you serve. You are the most, you contribute the most to the world in a detached state. And I think that the opposite happens when you are attached. So when you are attached, then you are influenced by the world. So the energy of the sorrowful world starts influencing you when you are attached. And when you are detached and loving with Baba, then you draw in Baba's light and might, and you share that with the world. So you have an effect on the world. So you make the world a better place. So Baba says this is something that we need to understand, that withdrawing the Buddhi Yoga from the old world is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of generosity. And generosity is a subject of wisdom. So, you cannot be emotional and generous. You have to be wise to be generous. So, every virtue comes from knowledge. If there is no knowledge, then what looks like a virtue becomes a vice. So even generosity, so you think that you are helping someone, benefiting someone by crying with their tears. But that is not generosity. Generosity is when you have such a big heart that you detach yourself completely and are ready with spiritual power so that you can benefit somebody. That's an act of a large-hearted soul. So, being spiritually ready for service, that's an act of generosity. So, this is something that Baba is saying. And then today Baba talks about, this difference in religions and how hatred. There is hatred in religions, and one religion hates the other, or they say, you leave the country. And then Baba says that I give you a solution for that. And what is the solution? I make you forget all religions, all bodily religions. Yes, and this is a very important subject to understand. So, I will share one incident with you. So, there was this one father and daughter, and they had come to the center. And then the father kept saying that, despite she being my daughter, I treated her like my son, and I gave her the best of education, and I gave her the best of upbringing, and I never differentiated between the son and the daughter. And look how she turned out to be. She has no gratitude for me. So the thing is, if you have gender consciousness and you are trying to be equal, that becomes very nasty. So, you treat a daughter with respect, and then you have ego about it, that you treated somebody with respect, because the assumption is the normal course of treatment for the daughter is she should be treated unequally. But now that you're treating her equally, she must have gratitude and cognizance for it. And the son is receiving it as a right, so he shouldn't have any gratitude for it. But the daughter should be grateful to you for treating her equally. So the thing is, when you try to be virtuous in body consciousness, it becomes a subject of ego. And then that ego starts backfiring after a point of time. Are you getting what I'm saying? Yes, so you cannot be gender neutral in gender consciousness. So when you are gender conscious, when you can see this is a son and this is a daughter, then you cannot rise above that drishti. Then you will always have that bias. And even when you try to rise above that bias, it doesn't look nice, it looks very nasty. And after a point of time, you will say that, I treated you like my son and you are not my son. And this also happens when you do the same thing with your daughter-in-law and your daughter. So I treat my daughter-in-law like my daughter. So that's the biggest lie. So you cannot treat somebody like someone else. So either that drishti is she is a daughter, or that drishti is she is a daughter-in-law. And when she is a daughter-in-law, she cannot be a daughter. So this is the problem, when our consciousness is fragmented, when our consciousness has prejudice in it, then our drishti, our attitude, our actions cannot be that without prejudice. They cannot be like that. And even if you try to make it, there will be a lot of this feeling that you're doing something, you're doing a great favor to somebody. And then you start getting egoistic about it. And then after some time, that ego you will see the other side of the ego, which is you will try to claim that, you did something out of your way. So this is something that Baba is also saying. So, when you have this religion consciousness also, I'm a Hindu, I'm this, I'm that. When you have this religion consciousness also, then that prejudice of us and them is there. So when you say, I am a Hindu, you're saying that one is another one. So there is an us and them. And then even if you're trying to act without prejudice, you are trying to be respectful, it cannot be so, because you have to fight a lot of prejudice and then suddenly it starts backfiring. So Baba has told us the method. What is the method? So in order to rise above gender consciousness, religion consciousness, relationship consciousness, every kind of bias that comes from these consciousness, Baba has given us the formula, come to soul consciousness. I am a soul, this is a soul, that is a soul, end of story. That's it. So when I am a soul, then there is no question about being a Hindu or otherwise. And then you can rise above that bias. So you cannot fight prejudice in body consciousness. Body consciousness is the consciousness of us and them. And when there is us and them, there will be prejudice. Yes, so even as a Brahmin, if you start differentiating between a Kumar, Kumari and a Grihasthi, okay, so that consciousness will not allow you to be soul conscious. Yes, so this soul consciousness is very important. So Baba says you have to start, and we perceive as we are. So you cannot suddenly have a change in vision for somebody and start seeing somebody as a soul if you don't see yourself as a soul. So I have to first rise above my consciousness that I'm a male or female, or I belong to this religion or that religion. And if I'm stuck in that consciousness, then I cannot see another one as an equal. So Baba says, first you rise above your body consciousness. You practice. And today Baba says, for at least 8 hours you have to be practicing soul consciousness. So pay attention that, am I soul conscious? Am I seeing myself as a genderless, casteless, religionless soul? Am I seeing myself as a pure, peaceful, loveful soul whose only religion is peace and purity? Am I seeing myself as that pure, peaceful being of light? Somebody who has got nothing to do with the world, this body, and the various labels that come with this body. So when you start seeing yourself like that, then you will be able to rise above these prejudices that exist in society. So this is something that Baba talks about, and it's very, very beautiful and very relevant, because these days, there is so much of talk about, there's so much of talk about creating equanimity or creating one world. But if the method is not right, you cannot achieve it. Yes. So this is something. And have you seen that in offices these days they don't use the address sir, and they have started calling the boss by the name. But does that ensure that the boss and the junior become equal? No. Because mentally he is still the boss. Because mentally you are the junior. So because you think that your status defines you, so your position in the office is your label, because you have not risen above that label, so the boss will be the boss. And this is not a question of not having regard or respect, but this is a question of, are you able to do everything seated in your self-honor? And when you are in your self-honor, you will obviously be respectful to everybody, not just the boss. So it's not about not respecting the boss, it's about respecting yourself and respecting everyone around you. So this is something that Baba talks about, and I found it very, very pertinent and relevant and important. So I talked about it. Then there is another thing that Baba talks about. Baba says that, when a needle is rusted, so it will not get pulled by the magnet. And Baba says that the soul is the needle, the magnet is Baba. And although Baba is the magnet, Baba cannot pull a rusted soul. And this is why, when initially we sit in meditation, it looks like imagination, or it looks like some kind of technical exercise that we are doing, because we cannot feel Baba's love or presence in the beginning. And we feel like we are doing something, we are doing it, we are not feeling it. There is effort in it. Because the truth is, Baba is the magnet, I am a soul, but there is rust on me. And then Baba says, when a needle is rusted, what do? You put it in paraffin and it gets cleaned. So this is why Baba says the paraffin is the knowledge. And the more the soul soaks in knowledge, the rust starts getting, lighter and lighter. So this is why when we come to Baba, we cannot experience light and might in the beginning. But what we can do in the beginning is do Chintan Manan. So when we churn on the points of knowledge, then that churning on the points of knowledge starts opening the doors and the windows, and it starts, paving the way through which I can feel Baba's light and might. So Baba says, when there is rust on the soul, then knowledge works better than yoga. And when the rust is removed, then it is, yoga. Then you are drawn towards Baba, and you can feel Baba's love and light and might and everything. But in the beginning, I think, it's very important that you soak yourself in knowledge, and in that immersion in knowledge, when you start soaking your buddhi in churning points of knowledge all the time, then slowly that rust gets removed and you start feeling drawn towards Baba. You start feeling that love for Baba. And I remember, when I started this journey, I couldn't have yoga. I did not have yoga in the beginning. I just went to the center, and I was listening to the Murli, and the Murli gave me a lot of happiness. And I just listened to the Murli, and I just thought about the Murli. And then I don't know when I started having yoga. If you ask me when did you start having yoga, I don't know. But it's just graduated into it. It was very gradual, and um, suddenly, I don't even know when that happened. But suddenly one day I realized I'm having yoga with Baba, and I can feel his light and might, and I know how to have yoga, but I cannot make somebody do it. And then you start, giving commentaries and this and that. But the way you feel Baba, you cannot make another person feel. They will feel it on their own. They have their own journey. But how do you do that? So it all starts with knowledge. So this knowledge is the paraffin in which the rusted soul cleans itself. And then slowly you start drawing, you start getting drawn to Baba, because you have got clean from inside. And then and there is another step. So I don't know whether it's technically right, but I think when you place so there is something called magnetization. So you magnetize an iron by keeping it in contact with the magnet. Does that happen? So that also happens. So when you are constantly in yoga with Baba, then you also start becoming a magnet. So Baba says, when you are in yoga with the magnet always, then that magnetic force starts becoming part of you also, and then you also become an instrument to pull others towards Baba. So that yoga power, that purity, that vibration of purity starts pulling other souls also, and through you they are able to know Baba better. So this is a very beautiful way of putting it, and Baba has put it in a very nice way today. And then today Baba says that you don't need resources to do Seva, you need a big heart. Yes, and Baba says, look at me, I don't have anything, and I'm able to come to the world and make it into a pure world by using the straws of children. So, Baba's children are also not multimillionaires. Baba's children are all poor children, and Baba can create the world of Satyug with us, not because the children have a lot of resources, but because the children have a big heart. And I remember there was this one sharing by a very senior sister, and she said that, in America, when we conduct programs and we distribute tolis to everybody, then sometimes somebody who sees it says that BKs have a lot of money, so they are distributing it. So they are giving toli free because this is a rich organization, they have a lot of money. But that sister said, no, we don't have a lot of money, we have a big heart. And you don't need a lot of money to give somebody toli. You need a heart to give a toli. Yes, so it's our love that makes us sit all night and prepare toli and serve and do the best. So Baba says that you need a big heart to serve, not a lot of resources. But Baba says the resources don't matter, but what matters is, are you a worthy soul? What is a worthy soul? In Hindi it is called a saput bacha, somebody who never does something that defames Baba. So Baba says what is important in service is you are not acting out of lust and anger. So you can serve with very limited resources, that's okay. But when there is lust and anger, then you cannot serve. And I have thought about it many times that what is Seva? So Seva is all about creating an atmosphere where purity, peace, knowledge can thrive. So it's all about creating that atmosphere. And when the soul has vices in himself, then how can you create that atmosphere? Those vices will become an obstacle in creating that atmosphere, and that vices, when they come into action, they will do a lot of disservice. So Baba says, it doesn't matter, you have less, you have more, you are the children of the Garib Nivas. So Garib Nivas, Baba is the Lord of the poor. And Baba says, poor children in the world, only rich people can donate and, create big dharamshalas and this and that. But here, even the poorest of Baba's children can do something, with very limited resources also. You can support Baba's yagya. But Baba says, what is more important than the resources is your quality. So what kind of a soul are you? Are you a saput bacha? Are you a good child? Are you free from lust and anger? That is more important. And Baba says, somebody who is pure, free from lust and anger, even when they contribute very little, they can claim a place in kingdom of heaven. Yes, and sometimes, the poor children of Baba have very little, and whatever they give is their everything. So when they give their everything, they receive everything. But Baba says, along with that, you also need to be serviceable, you need to be pure, free from vices, so that anybody who sees you benefits from the atmosphere you create, the acts you do, and the words you speak. Okay, Om Shanti. Let's